For my skin showcase videos, I spend a lot of time staring at weapons in slow motion, so I do notice a lot of things that the average player might not. This video will reveal numerous game-breaking bugs which, if fixed, I believe could help CSGO to overtake Apex and Fortnite to become the most popular game in the world. For a start, many of the weapons pass through your player's fingers. It's just that this happens so quickly that you usually don't notice. But here's a slow motion example to show how literally broken your character's model should be. I've noticed this on a number of weapons, but the Deagle is one of the worst offenders. So next time you miss a shot that should have hit, you can blame these terrible animations. Maybe. MX Off deserves mention for spotting your arm coming through your clothing in this particular instance. Next are the Dualies, which I have a couple of problems with. Somewhat understandably, but unforgivably, smoke only comes from one of the guns. This is obviously because the smoke stream can only be in one location at once, which can be a problem when there are like 2 weapons on screen at the same time. I was half expecting problems with the Dualies weapon model when it came to empty weapons, but to Valve's credit, the left gun shows that it's empty once the last bullet has been fired from it. Nice attention to detail there. However, this is reset if you switch weapons and then back to them again, and then upon firing the last shot, both weapons visibly slide back at the same time. And I don't know what's going on here. Upon firing the last shot, a magazine flew from one gun to the other, and both guns started smoking. Unfortunately, it was the one time they both shouldn't have done. Something also quite cool is if you fire one shot, then reload. The smoke will now always come from the opposite gun, and it is possible to make one gun fire and for smoke to come out of the other one. Who'd have thought so many problems could have been possible from one smoke effect? And if the smoke starts and you switch to another weapon, the smoke will then come from that weapon instead. Even the knife. But only when I used my custom one. You know what? I'm sure there was a point when the smoke trails worked flawlessly, but over time the game has been built upon and it's gradually gotten buggier and buggier. It's probably easiest just to rewrite the smoke trail's lines of code from scratch at this stage. And yet another problem with the smoke trail is if you fire with a silenced weapon and then take the suppressor off. Sometimes it will update the smoke trail position, other times it will continue to come from where the end of the suppressor used to be. I even managed to make 2 smoke trails at once, which raises more questions than it answers. So, smoke trails are completely messed up. You get it. Let's move on to other stuff. Firing one shot and then reloading will still make your character reload both weapons. A bit wasteful if you ask me. And even if you only have 1 bullet left in reserve before reloading, you'll still reload both weapons, even though one will remain empty. Maybe he's bluffing. The M4A4's fire mode points towards auto, meaning that if you hold the fire trigger down, it'll continue firing until the magazine is empty. What's wrong with that, you might ask? Nothing. That's how it should be. Not so with the M4A1S though, which has its safety on. In before it's buffed even more in a later update. If you enter the console command CL right hand at 0, you'll now fire left-handed. The weapons, however, will also be flipped, making all of the details on the wrong side, and all of the writing on them backwards. I can remember when I had just started school, and I had to choose which hand I was going to write with. Having a left-handed friend and seeing all the minor ways it inconveniences him in a right-handed world, I am so pleased that I chose my right hand. This CSGO bug is just one more reason. If you hold right mouse button down with any semi-automatic weapon, you can only fire one shot with it until you release the right button again. I don't think this is a bug, but it's a strange quirk with the game. Manuel Oliveira went one step further though, and found a way of doing this with automatic weapons as well. Hold right mouse button down when shooting the Zeus and it will automatically switch to your primary weapon, which will then be unable to fire until you let go of the right mouse button. Turns out I get horrible OCD when playing CSGO. I wasn't aware of it until a friend watching me play pointed out just how many buttons I was pressing that didn't do anything. I managed to get out of a lot of these habits by binding kill to these buttons, but some of my bad habits remained. A lot of these came from dares I set myself, like trying to shoot a teammate while the reload animation was playing, stopping just before the gun is able to fire again. I enjoy stabbing the air with my knife at the start of each round, and I know I'm not alone in this, but I've accidentally stabbed a few teammates in my time. At least I don't endlessly inspect my weapon like some people do. But another habit of mine has become a problem. If you inspect a weapon and tap the right mouse button while it's playing, then when the inspection ends, your gun will do this. Yup, this. You'll spot it in a lot of my older showcase videos. It got to the point where I was doing it so often that I had to manually edit the flick out for each weapon. Valve, please fix. The CZ has two different reload animations. One is for the first magazine, the second is for any reloads after that. Zool, the maker of CS:GO, discovered that the first reload you make with this weapon is faster than the rest. He had some cool speculation as to why this was. He suspects that they lost the file for the first reload animation and exported it from SFM, but at a different FPS. In case Valve is listening, he says it's tied to the frames and FPS set in the QC file, and to #fixCSGO. He also says that the second reload is just a slowed down version of the P250's reload animation, in case you were interested. Also, he pointed out that when there is no reserve ammunition left, equipping the Negev and M249 will look like this. I think that's bugged enough to justify a slow-mo. Beautiful. Thank you to Anida Jumper for this next one. The console command Givecurrentammo should replenish your weapon's ammunition. Do it with the M4A1S, however, and instead of giving you 75 reserve, it'll only give you 40, even if you already had more than that. And doing it with the revolver will give you 35 reserve ammunition, far more than it should do. This is the same reserve ammunition as the Deagle has, which shares the same slot as the revolver. I don't blame Valve too much for this bug. I mean, who uses the Givecurrentammo command when infinite ammo could be used instead? Gustavo Do Pro spotted this one. If you fire all of your ammunition and drop your weapon, first of all, thanks for ruining my day when I pick it up mid-gunfight. But second of all, thank you for helping us to discover a ghostly firing bug. Pick up a weapon with no ammunition and hold the fire button down before the reload animation kicks in, and it'll fire a single, ghostly shot. It's not a real shot. It won't do damage or anything like that, but it still makes a sound and leaves a bullet hole. On your screen at least. The Deagle doesn't fire a cartridge out with the last bullet in the magazine. Again, Zool was on the case when it was posted on Reddit a few months back. The FAMAS uses the curved 30-round magazine size, yet only has 25. Please fix. I couldn't get this one to work, but I'll throw it out there in case anybody wants to try it. According to BKN String, if you quickly inspect, then reload, it'll make the reload time almost instant. The enthusiasm he shows in his Twitter video is lovely, and I strongly believe he'd enjoy being a full-time bug tester for CS:GO.
Dude! Oh, dude, I found a win! What the hell? Does this work for every gun? I can reload instantly.
Could have been a problem with the server. I'll link to his video in the description if you want to check out the whole thing. Thank you to everybody for pointing these things out. Thanks to Zool for all of his help and for making CS:GO. And thank you to Valve for not releasing an update while I was on holiday. I'm back now. Please fix.